Hi, it's Mark Murphy, and I'm with TravelTube.com, which hopefully you know by now. Hopefully, you're following us on TravelTube.com by just opting in to get our weekly newsletter, as well as on our favorite on your favorite podcast apps because it goes out on all of those, as well as all the social media. So just look for TravelTube and look for that cool retro logo, and you'll know you got the right one because there's people out there pretending to be TravelTube.com, but they're not. There's only one. So today, very pleased to introduce you to Mike Clapper. Mike Clapper has started a business called Able to Global. And Mike, before I even tell him what it's about, why don't you step in and say, what is Able to Global? What is your mission? And what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark. I really appreciate it. So, Able to Global, our mission is to turn what most people think is a compliance checklist into a competitive advantage. And what I mean by that is when hospitality brands look at people with disabilities, they think ADA compliance. But that only goes so far. So, what we do is we actually show how improving accessibility can affect your bottom line, impact your bottom line, and boost revenues, increase loyalty, and drive real impact.
So, what does that mean? Like the market itself. So, you take let's say a river cruise ship.
Sure.
They'll have some accessible cabins,
Yes. Yeah.
but it'll be pretty limited.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the biggest challenges, right? Just access to the inventory itself. Do they need to modify more cabins? What do they need to be doing?
Yeah, it's fascinating. You're right. The inventory is incredibly limited. So when I go on a cruise, let's say I am vying for a handful of rooms on a 2,000 passenger ship, right? You were talking about river cruises, but I like cruising across the sea, right? So yeah, that's definitely one thing is the limited kind of inventory that's available, but it goes beyond that. I mean, the entire experience can be impacted by your services, your offerings, even the way you train your staff. And so the actual ADA accommodation for rooms is just a small piece of that.
So interesting. You got this in your head when you were on a cruise. Let's talk about that experience and what triggered all of this.
Yeah, that's a great story. It was frustrating at the time, but it turned out to be a great thing. So, a few years ago, my wife and I went on a cruise for my 40th birthday. It was an amazing cruise. We left the UK and made our way up through Scandinavia, and after 2 weeks, landed in Reykjavik, Iceland. So we get to Iceland. It's the last day of the cruise, and it's the kind of cruise where you get off for a day, you explore Reykjavik, you come back on at the end of the day, have a big kind of party, and then you get off the next morning. But everyone was required to get off that day in Reykjavik. So we get all of our stuff together, leave the room, get down to the gangway, and I'm ready to get off. And I look down, the gangway is too narrow for my wheelchair, number one. So I'm a wheelchair user. And number two, it has all of these kind of spikes, probably for inclement weather, I'm guessing. At least that's what I'm told. But this was July, so there was no ice, there wasn't any snow, things of that nature. And so I looked around and said, now what? And the crew kind of looked back at me and said, we don't know. and so that started the journey. I was stuck on board for 24 hours. My wife and I were the only passengers left on board that entire day. And that's where this whole thing kind of started. I said, something has to change. And what I realized is it wasn't empathy, it was execution. Everyone wanted to help, they just didn't know how. And so that's kind of how this whole thing got started.
Now, so what could they have done differently at that moment? Is there anything that they had in their power to make that work, or not really, because of the way the ship is built?
So it wasn't so much the ship; it was actually the gangway that the port provided.
Oh, it was the
Um,
ports. Okay, so it wasn't the ship's gangway; it was the port's gangway.
it was the
Okay,
fourth gangway, and in that moment there wasn't much they could do. Now, however, I was on board the ship for 2 weeks, right?
they fully knew, right? They fully knew.
They fully knew I was there. I
Yeah.
had been on board. So the fact that they didn't even think about this being an issue or that nobody actually thought like ahead of time struck me as fascinating. The other thing that was fascinating to me is that I met the chief accessibility officer because of all this. And being on this long cruise, 2 weeks, you would think I would at least be introduced to her at some point during the cruise.
So you had a chief accessibility officer on the ship.
That's correct. Yeah.
Now, is she always on the ship? Is she like a designated person on the
She's
ship?
a designated person.
Okay,
I think she wore multiple hats, if we're being
probably.
honest.
Yeah, that's probably.
And but it struck me that she didn't even know what to do. She was awestruck by the situation. And so she didn't have the proper training or the proper knowledge to even fix the issue. I eventually had to talk to the first officer on the ship and the chief security officer, who, long story short, came up with the idea of using a forklift to get my wheelchair off the ship
All
the
right.
next day.
And did you get off?
We got off. We were the last passengers off. Yeah.
All right.
They
So
waited.
so they innovated, they made it happen. You were able to go out and see parts of Reykjavik and
No, we didn't get to see Reykjavik because
oh,
our flight was that day. This was a whole 24 hours
oh,
later.
so you're staying in the port. Oh, I didn't realize that. So they don't leave Reykjavik. You're actually disembarking from Reykjavik, and they had to figure out a way to get you off the next morning
That's correct.
to even get you to your flight.
Correct. That's correct. So
Wow, that's a logistical nightmare.
it is a logistical nightmare. And so one of the fascinating things is that, and I don't know why this is, but everyone had to get off the day before, and the Reykjavik or the Icelandic government actually came in and swept the ship. I'm not sure why, but we were the only, so we were the only passengers on board.
Was that your first stop in Iceland?
No, that was our third or fourth stop in Iceland.
Okay. So it wasn't like a customs thing at that last moment, right? Normally, if you come in initially, you would think that they would board, walk around, do their inspection, like you see if you do a river cruise or if you're doing multiple ports. So that's interesting.
Yeah. The other fascinating thing is, like I said, we stopped at 2 or 3 other ports before we got to Reykjavik. Those were accessible, and they were small ports. Isafjordur is, I hope I'm saying that right. It's one of the cities in Iceland. They actually had an amazing setup for me to get off the ship there, and they had accessible tours and things available.
So they had the buses, they had whatever you needed to get around, and
Yeah.
vans.
Yeah, so they had an amazing botanical garden that was 100% accessible. So, and I love it. That was Iceland's third largest city. I think it was 400 people. I love it.
That's amazing, isn't it? That's what's great about travel. So interesting enough. So did the ship arrange for those accessible tours and things of that nature in the prior cities for you specifically?
No, we actually kind of took that upon ourselves.
Okay.
That we didn't take a bus or anything that time. That was literally because it's 400 people. The port, you get off and it's like 100 yards to the city, maybe less than that,
Yeah.
We could easily walk there.
Got it. So that's interesting. Now, what do you think happened at the port? Did they have the gangways to get you off, but they didn't have anything at that particular port for accessible travelers?
No, and that's the biggest port in Iceland, which is
very odd that a small little port with 400 people living in the town can handle it, but the biggest one you stop at can't. Somebody obviously just overlooked that. Do you think it's because some of these destinations, they're newer? I'm not just talking about Iceland, but because Iceland's a great destination and a lot of tourists love to go there, but it's a niche destination. You find that sometimes the niche folks don't have all the, all of the tools necessary, or do you find that throughout, whether it's a major port, big cruise ship type of destination?
Sure. I find that throughout, actually. So
Okay.
whether you're going to, we've done a lot of cruising in the Caribbean, which obviously that industry or that location's been around for decades. People have
Yeah.
been going there since the 60s, whatever. A lot of their excursions are not accessible. The ports normally are. This is the first time, and we've done some serious cruising. This is the first time that the actual port itself wasn't accessible.
Yep.
Other than sometimes there are tenders, as you know, to get off, and those are not accessible to me.
Right.
So
Right.
those days we stay on board the ship.
Understand that. Totally
But
get that. Yep.
yeah, it's big and small alike. I think it's not kind of that kind of thing. What's fascinating to me is some of the smaller ports are the most well equipped. And I think it might just be because they're using some common sense. You have smaller operations who are saying, hey, what do we do if there's a guest with a disability? I know, let's put a ramp here, or let's make sure that our little van, we did another excursion on another cruise. The van itself was accessible. That's rare, but that wasn't, the cruise company that was doing it. It was a small excursion company saying, you know what, we should probably have accessible transportation for our guests.
Right. Right. So that's very interesting. Well, what would you, let me shift gears for a second. So
Sure.
let's take your site. So this is your site, Able to Global.
Yep.
You said you set it up earlier this year,
That's
and
correct.
your mission is to basically work with these suppliers and destinations specifically to get them to understand that there's a lot of money to be made in having the tools necessary. For instance, if you got a choice between destination A or destination B, or cruise ship A or cruise ship B, and you're a disabled traveler, you're always going to go where you have the accessibility. And according to your site, it's a $96 billion market globally.
Yep.
I think everybody realizes with, let's just take the US. The US is a $58 billion market. Everybody knows in the US, we have this generation called the baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
And baby boomers are retiring. I think there's 10,000 people retiring a year. And let's face it, the older we get, the more issues we have. So, I'm fortunate that, I mean, I've had 8 surgeries on my right leg.
Oh wow.
I got a new hip, but I'm mobile. I needed an extra few minutes because I was sweating from a workout this morning to get on this call. But that market is only going to get bigger. And you say it's grown almost a little over 300% in the last 4 years.
That's correct. And a couple just nuances there. Those numbers you mentioned the baby boomers, and you are so correct. That's not even including baby boomers. I'm talking only about people with disabilities that are actually classified as disabled. So when you
Correct.
factor in
Yeah.
the baby boomers, it far surpasses $500 billion as a market.
Yeah. Yep.
Secondly, just really quickly, is that the $96 billion market is actually just in the US alone. So that $58 billion number that you're seeing there is just with people with disabilities when they travel. But the important thing to note here is that when you include travel companions like family members, caregivers, friends, what have you, it jumps to that $96 billion market. So
Yeah.
that's just in the US alone.
Yeah. There's a number on your site that says that 2.9 guests.
Yeah,
That's the total, including the disabled traveler,
that's
correct?
correct. Yeah.
So you're
Mhm.
getting like a 50% boost because of that caregiver situation. If it's a couple, they might have a caregiver with them, correct?
Caregivers, friends and
Children.
family.
Yep.
We have a son, and so when we travel on big trips now, we bring either my parents or my wife's parents with me, so that we can make it happen. So that's an additional 2 people that uh, weren't coming just a few years ago before our son was born. So things like that. Absolutely, yeah.
So obviously you've got a goal of trying to open the market for the folks that have accessibility issues by targeting the destinations and the suppliers.
Mhm.
Uh, what's the business model here for you? Like how does this actual business, do you work as a consultant for them? Do you advise them? And that model itself, how
Yeah,
can we help get the word out more so these folks understand?
yeah, that's a great question. So I do come in as a consultant, and we have a very kind of formulaic system that we use. We look at three things. Number one, we look at design. So we want to make sure that the design incorporates everybody. It includes everybody. And the cool thing is, this is not just putting a ramp here or there. If we use universal design principles, we can design a better environment for everybody. Now, I know everyone can't design, a brand new hotel, but there are things we can do at a marginal cost that make a huge impact. The second thing is
Can I
elevating.
interrupt you? Can I interrupt 1 second? Give me a couple of those ideas. What are some of the
Sure.
marginal things they can do?
Yeah, sure. So simple things like putting a remote button to get into a bathroom. A lot of these older hotels, the bathrooms are small, and I understand that. But if they put an automatic door opener that actually works, it would make people like me a whole lot more comfortable using those facilities. And a lot of places have those buttons installed, but they don't always work. So it's small things like that, like doing a simple audit. Okay, let's walk around your property. Is everything working from an accessibility standpoint? Is everything that you are saying is offered actually available to folks with disabilities? So that's just one example of that.
Yeah. All right. So I interrupted you. So go on to your second point.
No, so the second point is elevating guest experience. And so many times when I travel, I get that deer in the headlights look from the front desk person or the housekeeper, what have you. And that's not their fault. They just don't know what to expect. And so what I do is I work with the actual staff. We train them on how to handle people with disabilities. We talk to them about our unique cases, and we actually put in systems that work to help to improve that guest experience.
Gotcha. And what has been the response so far from the community on the supplier side?
It's fascinating to me. Everyone sees a need, but they are still wanting, they're waiting for someone to take the lead. And I think once we can get one supplier to take the lead and show that this actually matters, we'll get more people to stand up and say this is something that needs to be considered. I think accessibility in and of itself, inclusion is kind of a scary thing because it's tied to ADA compliance. And that's why I'm trying to drive this message of an actual revenue opportunity, just like anything else you would look at in your business to try to boost your numbers.
Yeah, like the idea is you're not doing this because you're conforming to a government regulation. You're doing this because there's a ton of money to be made
That's correct.
if you do it.
Yeah.
I also think that, and I'm sure you know this very well, being first and being out there, like I'll just give you an example. Talk about inclusivity. So big push in the travel industry for the LGBTQ, and I've lost track of all the letters, but that group, right? And how welcoming we are and how we've got special programs, et cetera, and you're going to feel comfortable here, this and that. Why wouldn't they just apply that to accessible travel, right? I mean, is the accessible travel market big enough for them to feel like, hey, I guarantee as a percentage of the population, there are probably more people that are either currently or will be in the future because of the baby boomers disabled going forward, but still want to be able to travel. So to me, it's like, hey, over here, like if I was thinking about the sales process, I would say, hey, Mike, if I was advising you, I'd say, hey, Mike, look at everybody that promotes the inclusivity in the LGBTQ plus community, and then look at those folks and say to them, what is different? So you're opening your arms to this community, yet you're not over here. And over here, we average almost 3 passengers per booking. Over here, it's 1 to 2.
That's
over
correct.
here, it's X billions of dollars. Over there, it's X billions of dollars. You know, you have to be multi-pronged and multifaceted. That, I mean, to me, that would be like my prospecting tub. I'd be like, woo, let's like get in there and pull up some rubber duckies and see what the rubber ducky. Oh, look, there's another one here, and there's another channel. Look at all these opportunities, and look at all these folks that have been promoting that for years and years and years, and to great effect. I mean, there are destinations out there that are not gay friendly. We know who they are.
Absolutely.
There are associations in the travel industry that promote those destinations that are safe. Now, there's an association in the travel space that you see at the trade shows that promotes accessible travel. I forget the name. Shame on me off the top of my head because I've worked with these folks. Do you recall the name of that group?
There's actually a bunch of them, but you're right. There's quite a few kind of people that are trying to use kind of political influence, trade, association influence to do this. And that's one of the reasons why I started Able2 Global, because I looked at that avenue, and it's not working. So I figured we got to try something else, and we have to hit these suppliers where it matters the most, and that's the bottom line. And you brought up the inclusive travel for the LGBTQ plus community. I think that's a great example. When I mentioned earlier about not meeting the chief accessibility officer, that same cruise ship, I won't mention the brand, had an LGBTQ plus. I don't know if they were an officer, but they were more like a guide, right? And they had meetups every night, and they had, special activities planned, and that's great. That's wonderful for them. I wish there was something like that for the disabled community, because then you could learn simple things like, oh, Mike actually needs a way to get off in Reykjavik. We should probably plan ahead for that. Or something simple like, instead of fighting to get to the back of the dining room, wouldn't it be nice if we could just put you up, in this nice corner where you can have a little bit more space and you wouldn't interrupt 100 travelers trying to get back to your table? Little things like that. If I could just talk to somebody and we could have a conversation, things would go so much smoother.
No, you're absolutely right. It is always interesting. I think one of the key messages on your site, and this is what people have got to be thinking about, is an entrepreneur, you always have to be thinking about what's next.
Yep.
And to say, like, future proof, you're talking about future proofing your business here. Like, if you look at if you look at the site here, I think that's one of the most important things. There are going to be more regulations. There are going to be more things and hoops to jump through. So you can either have a bunch of government bureaucrats tell you what you need to do and force you to do it at some point, or you can take control of your business and you can decide now that we're going to do these things proactively because we see the opportunity, and then you dictate the terms, not some bureaucrat. Because as we know, a lot of times they actually have the opposite effect. They make it less inclusive. You know what I mean? Because people say, well, okay, if I do all these things, at least, okay, I'm in compliance, but man, I don't want to go that extra distance because then that's going to put a bigger burden on me as opposed to embracing it. How do you handle that? I mean, is that a conversation you want to have with these folks? Because that could get, it can go a couple different ways.
Yeah, thanks for asking about that, Mark. I think you're spot on there. If we become the change makers ourselves, not because it's the moral thing to do or the regulatory hurdle that needs to be jumped over, but if we actually do this out of building that marketplace, then we can drive change without getting the government involved. And let's be honest. Whether whoever's in the White House, whoever's controlling Congress, the ADA has been around since I was 10 years old in the mid-90s. It just had its 30-year anniversary. We can't rely on the ADA to set the standards for everybody. We're always going to be disappointed regardless of who's in power, who's in charge. It's incumbent on us as the business community to see a market, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, and actually do something about it. And that's why, if we do these things, I'm not trying to just impact one community. I'm trying to impact everyone who travels. We talked about design a little earlier. It's hard to renovate a property, let's say, but if and when we do those things and we use universal design principles, that doesn't affect just people in wheelchairs or blind folks or people with low vision. In fact, it impacts everybody, and there are ways to do it smartly so that whether you're a family traveling with a stroller or the luggage guy carrying the luggage down the hallway and he's bumping into walls and all those kind of things, if we just use smart principles, we can make a huge impact that impacts everybody, not just a small portion of the community. So this is larger than just the disabled community. I'm trying to impact travel around the world for everybody.
I love the effort because it's something that obviously needs to be addressed. What do you say to the travel agency community and the opportunity for them? Because I know that they're always talking about specialization and different niches, et cetera. I think this. I mean, if you had a basically an inventory of different brands and destinations that you knew would make your clients trip amazing, whether they have a vision issue, walking, you name it, whatever it happens to be. If you could do that, you'd be the go-to person for this community. You'd be the go-to agency, and that word would spread because obviously I'm sure other folks that are disabled, and I'm sure you have conversations with them about this exact topic, especially people that are interested in travel. What suggestions do you have for those folks to address this market and build their business?
Yeah, that's a great question. Number one, I would say ask as many questions as possible. So often we say, is your property accessible? Yes or no. We have to ask what is actually required. So do you need a certain height bed in the room? Do you need a braille menu in the when you go to eat? What kind of restroom facilities are best for you? Is it a roll-in shower or is it a tub? Simple things like, are you right-handed or left-handed? So often they have grab bars, but if you're left-handed, let's say, they're on the wrong side, and then you're kind of out of luck. So I think just asking the right questions, and there are tons of travel providers that are doing that. And then the legwork goes on them because then they have to go and actually bang on the door of these destinations to get this information. The sad part is they can't always get this kind of information. I did this myself just recently, not as a travel planner, but I went to a conference with about 8,000 people. So I knew things were going to be kind of difficult. I called the hotel 3 times to make sure I had the right kind of room. When I got there, they didn't have me in an accessible room.
What was the logic behind that?
Again, it's one of those things. I get that deer in the headlights, that oh no look from the front desk staff because it's
effed up. Oh no, we screwed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the person at the front desk actually called somebody, I'm guessing in a reservation team, and said, Mr. Clapper's here. He requested this kind of room. I just want to confirm that this is the right kind of room for him. And they said, no, that's not going to work. Put him in this other room. And so the front desk agent said, here, why don't you take these keys? Because I had already gone up to my room to find out it wasn't the right kind of room. It had a tub, but I need a roll-on shower. If I'm going to be at a business conference for 4 days, I need to shower.
Yeah.
I need to look
my best. It's not going to work.
Yeah. I need to look my best, right? And so I went and looked in the other room, and they apologized profusely and upgraded my room. And I got up there. That was a completely non-accessible room, and they even checked. So that's where systems come into play. We need better systems as well. We have antiquated booking systems, antiquated property management systems. And again, that's not the staff's fault. That's just old technology. So one of the things I'm looking at doing is seeing, can we actually impact technology tech stacks to come in and make an impact, so that as soon as I walk up to that person at the check-in counter, they know who I am, they know what my special requirements are, and that can either live on top of the property management reservation system or incorporate it in that system. And I'm looking at, both avenues right now.
Right. And for travel agents, like, do you have any ideas on their best way to, obviously, if they have the knowledge, they have to have the knowledge, number one.
Mhm.
And there are different courses they can take and different
Sure.
trainings that they can take. But once they have that knowledge, what's the best way for them to go out and find potential customers that want to travel, that have various issues like you're talking about, and that would love to work with somebody who is in tune and really takes care of the details for them? Because I think that's what travel agents can do best.
Absolutely, and you're right on that. I think that there's a couple things that you can do. Number one, as you mentioned earlier, we're an extremely loyal group, right? So get one client, and then you have access to 3 more, who then give you access to 12 more,
Yeah.
etc. Now, as we talked about before we started rolling here a few minutes ago, I have a marketing background. So if you want to spend a little bit of money on things like Facebook ads and really target the disabled community, you can actually do that in the Facebook platform. TikTok is really huge right now. I'm not a huge TikToker, but the travel industry is really being impacted by TikTok right now, and you can actually sell your services straight on TikTok. I think that would be something to look at, and really actually pinpointing your marketing strategy, not just by age or by region, but by disabled populations or older populations, things of that nature.
And to add to that, you can also ask to join different groups on Facebook that cater to the disabled community, and then have conversations. And I think the biggest thing that you have to do if you're an agent, you're going to join any of these groups, first of all, you got to be invited in. So you got to request it. And then they have rules like, don't be sitting here, doing a sales pitch. Be in here as somebody who can provide advice. And to me, if they've got advice that they can share that benefits the community, they will get business. And if they don't, and they start doing the old spam thing, hey, I got a balcony cabin on Royal Caribbean for $800, per
Yes.
person, get the hell out of here.
Yes.
So it's very true. What else can you add as we wrap up here, Mike?
No, the only other thing I just want to add, number one on that whole Facebook group things. I am actually starting a Facebook group. It's not just about accessibility, it's about AI, which I think could be a huge thing for the travel planning community that could help us look at specific requirements and specific properties and doing all the legwork for us. So I'm starting a Facebook community called AI. I'll give you the link because it's literally
Put it in. Yeah.
It's just starting with a friend of mine who I think you interviewed recently for another episode, Irene. We're really excited to do that. So that's one way, because I'm going to talk about accessibility there.
Okay,
I told her, I said, we'll talk AI, but let's also talk accessibility. And she's, we're all for that. And there are a couple other great resources too that I can provide a link that you can put in your show notes that would be really helpful as well.
Would love to, man. Would love to support it.
The last thing I just want to say really quickly is, in addition to this work that I'm doing, I'm also starting my own kind of thought leadership platform. That's the inclusioneerlab.com, inclusioneerlab.com, because I think what we really need is education. So it's great to do work with suppliers. It's great to make money, but this is a larger movement than that. So I really want us to think about how we can impact the travel industry. So I would ask that you would follow me there as well.
I'd love to. We'll get all those up in the show notes. And I appreciate you coming on today. I love what you're doing. And I think a lot of people are going to benefit by it, whether they're in the industry or whether they're the folks on the street, and whether you're disabled or not. I guarantee pretty much anybody listening to this podcast knows or has a friend or a relative that has accessibility issues.
It's amazing when
Yep.
you start asking people who's impacted by disability, how many people are affected.
Without
You're
a
right.
doubt, without a doubt. That's Mike Clapper. He's with Able to Global and inclusioneerlab.com, and check the notes below. And I appreciate your time today, Mike. And good luck with the venture. I think you're onto a hot market that is only going to grow and open people's eyes to the rest of the world, which is wonderful.
Very good, Mark. It was a pleasure being with you today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.